This video will demonstrate how to clinically assess spine mobility and flexibility. I'll begin this video by actively assessing the cervical spine, followed by passively assessing the cervical spine. Active movements are movements where the client uses their muscles to go through the entire range on their own. While doing this, there will be no external force applying pressure to the patient. When the patient does this, I will be assessing to ensure that the patient is able to complete the entirety of the range in order to determine the severity of the injury. I'll give simple commands to the client to ensure they know exactly what to do. In this video, I begin by assessing cervical spine extension followed by cervical spine flexion. I then ask the client to bring their ear to their shoulder, which is an example of side flexion at the cervical spine. I then follow this by doing rotation right followed by rotation left. In this next video, I ask the client to relax as I take control of the head. When doing this, I ensure to correctly support the head in order for the client to have trust over what I'm doing and feel secure. These movements will be passive movements. Passive movements refer to movements of a person's body parts that are executed by an external force, such as another person, rather than by the individual's own muscles actively contracting. In passive movements, the muscles surrounding the joint being moved remain relaxed, and the movement is generated externally. This is used to assess joint mobility, assess range of motion, and to have a better understanding of the injury. I begin the passive movements by assessing cervical spine flexion, followed by cervical spine extension. After this, it is followed by performing side flexion at both sides of the head. Next, I begin assessing rotation by assessing rotation left, followed by rotation right. This next clip shows an example of thoracic spine active movements. It is impossible to assess passive and resistive movements at the thoracic spine. I begin by placing the client onto a bed in a strong position to ensure there isn't much influences from the lumbar spine. This third part shows extension at the thoracic spine, followed by flexion. I then assess side flexion at the thoracic spine, both sides. And then finally I finish off the thoracic spine by assessing rotation left, followed by rotation right. This final part demonstrates how to actively assess the lumbar spine. I begin by assessing the lumbar spine flexion, followed by extension. When doing flexion, I give the instructions for the client to touch their toes. Then I move on to side flexion on both sides, where I tell the client to slowly push their arms down their leg as far as they can until they can't go any further. In order to do rotation right, then rotation left, I told the client to place their knees up against the bed. I did this in order to focus the movement at the lumbar spine.